Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We are very privileged to have with us today General Amos Yadlin, former Chief of Intelligence of the IDF, fighter pilot, participated in the 1981 attack on Iraq, a nuclear reactor, and the IDF attaché in the United States. And then Executive Director of INSS here in Israel. General Yadlin, thanks for joining us. Why don't you start with a short introduction, then we'll open up for a Q&A. You will ask your questions on the chat board, and I'll try to kind of combine them into short questions because our time is limited. Thank you. Mr. General Yadlin, please.
Okay, we have to understand what were the assumptions, the strategic assumptions about Gaza and the relation of the State of Israel with the Gaza Strip controlled by the terror organization Hamas. Basically, Israel saw Hamas as a third grade kind of threat. The main threat are Iran, nuclear Iran, Iranians in Syria, Hezbollah. And Israel didn't want to waste its energy and attention and ammunition on this terror organization in Gaza. This was one assumption. The second assumption was that Hamas, even though a terror organization, is also the ruler of Gaza, and he cares about the 2 million inhabitants, and his accountability to the people of Gaza was demonstrated by limiting their terror activities, reaching ceasefire, and building Gaza, sending workers to Israel, getting the Qatari money. And the concept was that Hamas is deterred, interested in the economy in Gaza, and will not initiate a full-scale war. What happened on Saturday? All these assumptions collapsed. Hamas decided to go to a full-scale war. Hamas gave up the idea of his workers working in Israel, and Hamas knew very well that Gaza will be destroyed after the attack, and Israel has to change its assumptions. So Israel don't see anymore Hamas as an address, as a site for arrangement, ceasefires, or whatever. Israel see Hamas, according to their behavior on Saturday, as worse than ISIS, a Nazi organization that should be destroyed the way the Nazis were destroyed in Europe by the Allies, the way ISIS was destroyed in Iraq and Syria by the American-led coalition. This is how we stand today, not anymore thinking about a limited operation to achieve quiet for quiet, tranquility for tranquility, and gaining time until the next round. This should be the last round against Hezbollah, against Hamas. And as the Prime Minister, the Defense Minister, and Gantz said last night, Hamas should be erased off the earth of Gaza. So the goal of this operation is destroying Hamas, taking all his military capabilities and his governance capabilities, and replace it with something else. We will talk about the something else later. This is a very ambitious goal. And governments in Israel were very careful not to go too high on their objectives, because then after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the public asks them, are you achieving your goals? But since the atrocities and the scale of killing civilians, families, young children, beheaded babies, raping girls, burning and dancing around the Israeli bodies. This is pictures that Israel cannot tolerate, and it will lead to this operation, which is not a punishment operation. It's to take the abilities of Hamas to do it again, and at the end of the operation, the rest of the Middle East should contemplate what will be the consequences of thinking about doing something like this in another border or another time. So it is serious this time. Forget everything you know about the previous wars in Gaza. So we see now the Israeli Air Force attacking Gaza, much stronger, wider, and different rules of targeting and engagement. It's all according to the international law, in the same way that interpreted the international law, the American Air Force in Mosul or Riyadh against ISIS. And we are not going to Dresden, but we will target every Hamas target in Gaza, a military post, a military command, a production for this army, logistic, everything. And we will not knock on the roof. We will do it in a way that the rest of the world is doing war. You target the military target according to the proportionality idea, that part of the just war principles, but it's going to be very, very difficult for the Gazans. We are going to face a humanitarian crisis, and we will ask to ease it. If we will ask to ease it, only if they will return those who were kidnapped and they are now in Gaza. So tough time ahead. The decision was taken, and I want to speak about two issues more before we come to Q&A. Whether Hezbollah will join. Hezbollah already started the lowest level of their activity, which is to do the minimum needed, that at the end of the war, Hamas could not complain that they haven't participated. But this is very small operation, the minimum that they can do. Hezbollah can do much, much more, but they are doing very, very measured and careful attacks on Israel. The second stage may be when the ground operation will start. They will try to deter Israel. They may go to a second stage, which is the maximum they can do without crossing the threshold of a full-scale war that they want to avoid. The third stage is a full-scale war. You can reach there by mistake, but not controlling the escalation good enough. And you can be there if Hezbollah will decide that the supreme leader told them that they have to go to war with Israel. I don't see Nasrallah there, but we have to be very careful when we look at decision of terror organizations.
Amos, you froze.
At least in the last 17 years, but we have to be ready that we are mistaken, and he will attack as well. Iran. People are asking why Iran, or whether Iran was part of the plan. And my answer is operational plan, no. They haven't been on the planning board of this attack. However, their spirit, their ideology, their money, their weapon was there. So they gave the Hamas everything to plan it, but the plan basically need to be very, very classified, was planned in Gaza and executed in Gaza in the right timing for the Gazans. But Iran is behind it strategically, but not operationally or tactically. Let me stop here and Uri will fire.
Thank you. Question came in. There is an assumption that the plan of Hamas was to kidnap soldiers only, and or most of the atrocity were done by civilians from Gaza who just poured in because of the breaches in the fence. Do you have any idea about this?
I don't have any idea, but from what I heard, these people of the fighting force of Hamas have done atrocities not less than the civilians. What we see now, Hamas is trying to get away as far as they can from the image that they are even worse than ISIS. Unfortunately, they were stupid enough unfortunately for them, to take clips, to take video, and some of them even post it on the social networks. I have a suspicion that these pictures were sent to President Biden, National Security Advisor Jack Sullivan, maybe, and I saw a very tough generals having tears and crying when they saw what they saw. It is highly not recommended to see it.
Right. A question. What is the likable scenario now? Ground invasion, or can Israel achieve its goal without that?
No doubt that ground operation will be there. However, it is not necessarily occupying the whole strip. Let's say that we know where is Senwar, there will be a ground moving towards brigade towards him. Maybe we know another place that's important. The idea that we don't want to enter on the ground was based on the price. Since the price was so high, we will not hesitate to go on the ground now. And as I say, the objective is different. The objective is to erase Hamas military capabilities. And I'm a big advocate of Air Force, air power, but there are some missions that the Air Force cannot do. And Israel will not hesitate to send the troops. It is now our time to surprise them with methods of ground operation, and it's going to be a long time.
We have seen in the past, in previous rounds with Hamas, that the world shows empathy at the beginning, and then things start to change. Do you think it will be different this time?
For sure. The level of atrocities, killing, raping, I don't have to repeat it, beheading babies, and it is not in a question who have started it. I think the support of the world will be much longer than in before. It will be balanced by what will come from Gaza, because the destruction in Gaza will be huge. But there are moments in life of a nation that you are not pay too much attention to the what is say. In many quarters, there is one line that you should pick the phone. and this is the President of the United States. And if you listen to his amazing supporting speech 2 nights ago, there was one sentence on do it according to the international law. But the international law allow the US Air Force to bomb Mosul to the ground, to destroy ISIS, with, let's say, 10,000 casualties. 90% of them were innocent civilians, collateral damage. So we have to make sure that we are not going beyond what the US have done in Mosul and Raqqa. I still remember the same allies attacking Dresden. This is a war between two states. The state of Hamastan, which killed 1,200 Israelis, thousands of them innocent people, and the state of Israel. And the state of Israel will behave as if it was attacked by Syria or Jordan, and they have done the same. And very much like how the US reacted after September 11. They went to destroy Al-Qaeda. They didn't pay any attention to the humanitarian status of Al-Qaeda.
What about the fact or the assumption that Sinwar and other leaders are hiding intentionally under Shifa hospital or something? Would you recommend to bomb that as well?
Once again, if this saved him in the last time, he should not think that this is an insurance location, insurance policy. I'm not saying I will bomb it. Maybe what I spoke about a ground operation towards the hospital, maybe another way of reaching. But if Sinwar and DEF will survive this operation, we are not standing up to the objective that the government of Israel have decided to implement or in this operation.
There's a word in Arabic, ba'den, after. The question is, what after? Okay, let's say IDF conquers Gaza, eliminates Hamas leadership and infrastructure. What then?
Very good question, Uri. And my answer is the following. We will try to give it back to the PA or any other Arab entities that want to control Gaza. The Qataris are good friends of the Gazans, Egypt, Jordan, whoever wants Gaza will get it. We don't want to rule 2 million Palestinians. I started with the wrong assumption in the past. One of the wrong assumptions I haven't mentioned was, why knock out Hamas? We will have something worse, like ISIS. Uri, believe me, nothing is worse than Hamas. So if ISIS want to come to Gaza, fine. What we are now will do, after destroying the Hamas military capabilities, we are not anymore dealing with their intention and anybody's intention. We will destroy the building up of the military in Gaza, whoever will control Gaza, the way we are doing it in the West Bank. You know about a terror laboratory. When they produce weapon, you go and destroy it, even if it is in Area A. The same will be in Gaza. We don't let them build such an army that will be able to penetrate Israel and kill thousands of our civilians. Not anymore. This is gone.
What about Hamas leaders abroad?
I wouldn't buy them, sell them a life insurance.
Good. We know that there are a lot of questions about Saturday, what happened. I mean, everybody says we should wait till the war is over and then start the inquiry. But can you say something about what happened? What do you think caused this big failure?
Uri, there are three failures here. And unfortunately, there is synergies that have made it a catastrophic failure, a national catastrophic failure. Let me start bottom up. Intelligence failure, operational failure, leadership failure. The intelligence failure is a classic intelligence failure. It will be in the same league, on the same case studies with September 11, Pearl Harbor, Barbarossa, Yom Kippur. And I'm very, very sorry about it because it shouldn't happen. But it's intelligence failure. They haven't issued a warning. Second is operational failure. The idea that this fence in Gaza will stop an attack was wrong. If you want to have a real line that stop an attack, you should do something like what the Russians are doing now against the counter-offensive of the Ukraine. A lot of anti-tanks canals and mines. There was no one mine over there. The idea was that the electronic will give an early warning and then the military will come and stop them on the fence. Wrong operational concept, should be repaired. And then the leadership failed. The prime minister took Israel to 9 months of attention to his unbelievable judicial revolution. And he splitted the nation of Israel to 2 camps and encouraged the fight. And basically weakened all our national security pillars. The unity of the country, the deterrence of Israel, the pilots that haven't shown up, and the attention of the leaders of the country. And people are saying that the Egyptian intelligence told Bibi that there's going to be an attack. He didn't have attention to this. Let's say that the Egyptians are not telling the truth. But you don't need the Egyptians. The chief of intelligence issued a warning that Israel deterrence is deteriorating. The chief of staff issued a warning that the readiness of IDF is not good enough. His defense minister was fired because he said that we are not in a good situation and there are threats. I wrote a column, an op-ed in March. Basically, you can see it in the N12, which is saying that we are approaching the 50 years of the failure of 1973. Bibi is leading us to a failure of 2023. Bibi wanted to be Churchill. He will be Golda Meir. I wrote, I hope he is reading me. But leadership failure, operational failure, intelligence failure, all together brought this catastrophe.
Last question. In the past, the attitude of Israeli leaders toward Hamas was that it's not the really important organ in the composition of threats we face, that Iran is the big one and Hamas is a minor one. Hasn't Hamas in the last war shown capabilities that we didn't anticipate?
And no doubt that their operation was well planned and well executed, which basically the answer to your question. Not that we didn't have this attacking an Israeli kibbutz or army post as one of our possible scenarios. But the way they have executed it, planned it, hide it, concealed it, and did it simultaneously was a surprise. And that's why I'm saying that the idea that Hamas is number 4 in our threat may be in its power, orbit, weapon, but the fact that they are half a kilometer from an Israeli civilian settlement is calling that you are not taking any chance with them. Thank you, Uri.
General Yadlin, we promise to let you go by 4:30, and we keep our word. Thank you very much for coming to JPC. Thank you, the journalists who joined us. It will be recorded and sent to everybody if they want. Thank you. Stay tuned to our next event. And I thank our colleagues at JPC, Dekel, Eli Klutstein, and Matthias Sakar. Take care. Bye.